This is The Gala Show. I'm your reporter on the beat, Gala Avery. On this episode, you may know my guest as the filmmaker behind Nightmare Cinema, The Inheritance, and Locksmith, the producer of Postmortem, or as a strike captain coordinating the writers on the WGA picket lines. But here on The Gala Show, I simply know him as Pizza Joe, Joe Russo. Hi, Joe.
Hello. Hello, Gala.
So before we bring up the topic for today, I have a question for you, an incredibly difficult question.
Oh, boy.
Where is the best place in Los Angeles to get a slice of pizza?
All right. Well, I found a great place in 2020 called Brandoni Pepperoni.
Where was that?
He started, it was almost like, the Stefan skit from SNL.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like, if you go to the back of a Target, just a couple doors down, like it's the best pizza in LA. Right? But yeah, no, he started literally out of the back of a restaurant that was next to a Target up in West Hollywood. And, he got written up in the LA Times, and I was like, it's the middle of the pandemic. Like, let's go try this. And it still is some of my favorite pizza in LA. He has since moved out of the back of the Target.
Do you think it tasted better when it was in the back of the Target?
No. It's still great.
Okay.
In fact, actually, he just got written up again by the LA Times as one of the top 21 pizza places in LA.
Wow.
Yeah. So he does it on Thursday and Friday nights out of a wine tasting room in Culver City.
Oh, wow.
He records out of the back. So definitely check it out, Brandoni Pepperoni. It's great.
And what kind of pizza is it? Like
It's
thin
kind of
crust, thick crust?
thin, really. It's like impossibly thin, crispy, kind of New California-esque style pizzas.
Okay, and like what's the go-to topping?
Oh man, there's one called the Let's Ride, which is like a salami with a hot honey. It's great.
Now, as always, my guest gets to bring their topic to the mic. Joe, what are we going to be talking about today, and why did you decide to choose it?
Well, we're going to talk about gateway horror. Gateway horror obviously is very important to me because I'm a horror screenwriter, a horror producer. I got into the genre in a really early age, and I thought, we could run through some of the movies and books and series that got me there.
And I love this topic also because it's really important for young kids to figure out how they find movies and how they find I always say their tribe. Like you have to find your kind of people that you are like akin to.
Yes.
And so finding a gateway into a genre is one of those ways.
Absolutely. But first, time for a commercial break.
Looking for a scary movie to watch? How about The Inheritance? On the eve of his 75th birthday, a billionaire invites his estranged children back home in the fear that someone or something is going to kill him. The catch? He puts each of their inheritance on the line to make sure that they protect him. Joe Russo's new movie, The Inheritance, is available streaming on places like iTunes and Amazon on July 12th. Be sure to check it out.
And we're back.
That's our topic for today, gateway horror. I'm putting 30 minutes on the clock, and our time starts now.
All right. So the first movie I wanted to talk about was something I've watched literally every year since I can remember.
Okay.
It is a Disney cartoon.
So you started young with gateway horror.
Oh, yeah. No, so my parents were super into the holiday of Halloween.
Okay.
And so
were you guys the cool house to go to when you?
So they were before I was born.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, I know. Apparently, as the legend goes, they used to throw haunted houses and things. And one year the cops showed up because some kid claimed they found a razor blade in the chocolate that they got in my parents' house.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, that kid ruined it for everyone.
That kid ruined it for everyone. But, my parents still had all these decorations and masks and all sorts of things. So Halloween was always kind of a big deal for us. And, very young, I grew up in Connecticut, which is, a hop, skip, and a jump away between Salem, Massachusetts, and Sleepy Hollow, New York. So, watching the adventures of Ichabod Crane became kind of like a religious thing for me.
Oh, really?
It's really not Halloween until I watch this silly cartoon with Bing Crosby. The other big movie that my parents pushed on me very young, which helped get me into the Universal monsters, was Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
Oh, it's fun. And that's a
Yeah.
fun one. These are like very like kind of soft horror to get
Yes.
into.
Yes.
You still watch Ichabod and Crane every year?
And I still watch Abbott and Costello every year.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's part of my annual horror movie marathon, which my wife loves doing in October. Big quotes around.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, does she actually love it? Or
She, it gives her a chance to shop on her phone.
does she suggest a movie every now and then? Or is it the same kind of
I
movie?
always ask, and she always is kind of like, you pick. She knows that I'm going to program it. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So, Adventures of Ichabod Crane, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, that got me into the Universal monster movies and seeing those for the first time. And then obviously when I got a little bit older, seeing Young Frankenstein, Mel Brooks.
Oh, I mean, of course. Yeah, that's like one of the I even have that I think I saw Young Frankenstein with Neil Gaiman and his daughter when I was like a kid. Yeah.
Whoa.
Maddie. We watched it together for the first time at like I think it's called like the Blue Iguana or the Green Iguana Inn in Ojai because they were there, and so we did that. It was really, really fun. So it's like that is a formative gateway horror. Before we go on though, because I know I know your whole list and I love this list of movies. I was like picking off like, oh, like is this horror? This is totally horror.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Universal monster?
I think I've always liked the Frankenstein movies the best.
Makes sense because you have like the Young Frankenstein connection and all of this.
I think, as I got older too, I started to really appreciate, like I loved Son of Frankenstein when I was younger. And then like I grew into really appreciating Bride of Frankenstein. But I still really truly think that Young Frankenstein might be the best of the bunch of the adaptations. So yeah, no, I even wrote a research paper defending that in college.
Did you?
I did.
Research papers defending movies that you love in college and high school are by far the best. Like I wrote one on Phantom of the Paradise for my religion class in college.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's
cool. And I wrote a episode like an essay on a Star Trek episode in high school. I was like, the best episode.
the other one I distinctly remember was Donnie Darko. I wrote a paper on Donnie Darko, which totally shows my age. So yeah, no, but those were kind of I think like the Abbott and Costello. My dad loved Abbott and Costello and loved all their comedy bits and movies and showed them to me at a very young age, but that was the one that I think like really clicked for me.
Clicked it, yeah.
Oh yeah. No, and I love it. And I love introducing people to it. I love showing people it.
Is it like the one that you would say like start here?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, if you want to get into the Universal monsters, it's such an easily digestible way to do it.
Yeah, to do it. So like dip your toe in and then just fall in love with the characters and just it's kind of funny because I mean like I hate on like the Marvel Cinematic Universe a lot, but like the monster movies, it's kind of their own like
it was the MCU before there was an MCU. Yeah,
it's like they could have had all the crossovers. I'm surprised that they haven't rebooted it.
They've sure tried.
Yeah.
But less said about that's the better.
Let's move on to the good stuff.
Yeah, let's move on to the good stuff. So one movie that traumatized me as a child, but I loved being traumatized by it.
Oh my God.
Was Wizard of Oz is a magical movie with some slight horror elements, but Return to Oz, the mid 1980s, Walter Murch, that movie scarred me.
Well, did it scar you because you expected to go in with like Wizard of Oz 2?
I think so. I also knew that it terrified my mother. Which like I think when your parents are afraid of something, like my dad was afraid of the Alien movie, like Ridley Scott's Alien.
Yeah.
When you know that they're scared of something, they're invincible, right?
Yeah.
So for me, knowing that my mom was afraid of this movie, I think I went in with such like my guard up, and there's some really traumatic kinder trauma imagery going on.
Yeah, for sure.
From the pumpkin head character to the witch lady who has all the severed heads collections, and I mean it's nightmare fuel. It was pure nightmare.
And I like it because I don't think a lot of people would consider that like straight up horror.
No,
but there are like a lot of really scary elements. Like for one thing for me, like that I would consider like gateway horror. I'm putting air quotes around it because it's not horror, but like a Fantastic Planet. Like when I was showed that as a kid, that freaked me the heck out.
Yes.
Yellow Submarine, the animated movie. even.
Really?
Yeah, like
That's
I mean
so
the blue
funny.
meanings, like when the guy is coming like with his hand and stuff, like that's scary.
No, it's amazing what you're afraid of when you're a kid. Probably the thing that scared me the most as a child, which is not on my list, but we should talk about it, is actually the witch from Snow White.
Oh, really?
Yes, I was completely traumatized by her.
What
Not the
what
evil
about her?
queen, but like after the
Like when
transformation,
he becomes with
when
the
she
apple?
has the long white hair, I kind of realized that like Nick has that same
Oh my
haircut.
god.
When I was at a horror convention and I took a photo of him standing next to a bust of the witch.
He should be her for Halloween. Can you?
I'll try to coax him into that idea.
I mean, you might be too scared.
I don't know if I could see him, to be honest with you. That might scare me away forever. But I was like, oh my god, they have the same haircut.
Oh my god, that would be so scary. And then like the other one for me, like when I was a kid, it's like not a horror movie, Baron Munchausen. Like
Oh,
anything
yeah.
Terry Gilliam.
Oh,
Still, I
yeah.
get nauseous. Like and Labyrinth.
Oh,
not-
Labyrinth is a great one.
It's not really horror, but like it's
Right,
so
but it's horror
scary.
adjacent.
It's so scary when you grow up as a girl who babysits, and then it's like you have a younger brother, and
Yeah.
it's like all of a sudden like I wish my brother away, and then all of a sudden
And
it's
it's like,
like
I was
David
gonna have to
Bowie,
go into this nightmare to get him back.
Fushigi Masters there, like dancing.
Labyrinth is a terrific movie, and I think totally falls in that same kind of Return to Oz, Kinder trauma
Yeah, exactly.
category. But I think from there, you know, I'm very much a Spielberg kid.
Oh yeah.
You know, I grew up, you know, in the 80s and early 90s, so like his movies just defined my childhood. And I think that, you know, you watch even E.T., which is his most lovable movie. Like you think about, first of all, they have that great Halloween sequence, which I
Yeah.
always love and always makes me feel like autumnal.
E.T. scared me so bad when I was a kid. I saw like a re-release in theaters. I had to be taken out of the theater. I literally, when E.T. dies, spoiler alert, sorry
Yeah,
guys, if
yeah.
you don't know that E.T. dies, I don't know what to tell you.
Ruh-roh.
When E.T. died, I literally was crying so hard that I had to leave the theater.
Yeah.
And they tried to tell me like, don't worry, E.T.'s gonna come back. And I was like, nope, I'm out.
You know, we took my friend's 6-year-old to see it last year at the theater, and he did great with it. You know, we talked
Really?
through some of the scary stuff, but like, yeah, he did really, really well with it. But I mean, the image of E.T. pale white in the river is horrifying.
That kid is more gangster than I am because
Yeah.
I was like, I'm out. This is too scary.
But I think, you know, I think Spielberg is kind of like underrated in terms of, you know, the things he make can be terrifying. I mean,
Mhm.
like obviously Jaws, you know, I am a firm, staunch supporter of Jaws as a horror movie.
Did you see it in 3D when it was re-released in
You know, I
3D?
didn't. I
Oh my,
missed
it was
it.
an amazing
I
experience.
heard.
I saw it and it was like mind blowing. Like they were creating depth of field with the split diopter shot.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like, they were just using the 3D ever so slightly to like literally just make you feel like you were in it. I didn't even notice. It was amazing. And then when the shark came, I actually screamed. I was like,
Yeah, no, Mick just raved about it, and I regret not being able to go so much.
hopefully they release it
Literally,
again.
I'm sure they will. There's always another milestone anniversary they can put
Yeah,
those things
always.
out for. But yeah, I mean, obviously that scared everyone out of the water. But I think one of the movies that we don't talk about enough as being kind of a kinder trauma horror adjacent movie in his, you know, filmography is Temple of Doom.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, the Kali Lama, you know, where he reaches in and takes the guy's heart out of his chest. It's
It's also gross.
oh my god. It's, you know, it's gross, it's scary, it's terrifying. There's literally a man holding a heart up
It's
above his head.
practical. It's practical. A lot of the things that we're talking about, like, because these are older movies,
Sure.
they're all done practically. And I
Yes.
think the practical stuff is a lot scarier than all the CGI stuff, personally.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then I mean, you know, Gremlins, of course.
Oh yeah, of course.
You know,
I mean, is there any doubt that Gremlins is gateway horror for
Yeah.
a lot of people out there?
unbelievably so.
Because it's so
I
cute.
Yeah, no, Joe Dante, I owe so much of my childhood to, because there's so many movies that I grew up just consuming of his. Like the movie Explorers,
Yeah.
I loved it.
Explorers is
And
crazy.
when we made Nightmare Cinema, I just kind of forced him to talk about it, even though he didn't want to.
He's such a sweet guy.
He is.
He tries to come off like all like I'm tough and rough and tumble.
I
But
know.
no, Joe, I know you're a soft.
Yeah,
inside.
he is. But no, I was forever grateful that I got the chance to watch him work, but also just like pick his brain about some of these movies. And then I also, like, when I went to go direct kids for the first time, picked his brain about like how to direct kids,
Yeah.
because he got such great performances out of people like Corey
What
Feldman.
what was the advice that he gave you?
I mean, it's probably the advice that I think most directors would give. It's, it's treat them like people, treat them like you would an adult. Don't talk down to them, make them feel comfortable. Treat them as you would an actor who's closer to your age. And I think that, I did that, and hopefully to some good results, and the things that I've done. But I definitely credit like that. I will forever cherish that conversation with him.
And also,
and-
is Piranha, which came from like the essence of Jaws.
oh yes,
It's also terrifying.
yes.
That is definitely gateway horror. It's like gateway exploitation also.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I feel like Piranha for me was a little bit more of a deep cut. Like, it didn't come to it until later.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It was more like it was Gremlins, it was Explorers, it was The Burbs. Like,
Yeah.
those were probably the trifecta of the movies that of his that I grew up on.
And I have to say Inner Space. I just have to mention Inner Space
Yeah, it was
anytime.
a great movie.
Anytime Joe's.
But The Burbs, it's not on my list again. But The Burbs also a great gateway horror movie.
Okay, so like, for a horror movie like to be good for you, does it
Yes.
have to scare you, or does it just have to make you feel uncomfortable? Like, what is it that makes it a horror movie that you like?
I mean, I think, well, look, I do love getting scared, and it's super easy for me to get scared in a theater. People are always like, oh, you watch so many horror movies, you must like never get scared. I'm like, I am such an easy mark for a jump scare. But no, I think it's just like, I want a good story. I want good characters. I mean, I think you could argue that almost every movie on this list that we're talking about has those things.
Yeah.
So to me, it's not so much about the scares. It's more about the story being memorable. I remember doing a podcast one time where I had to rate the Friday the 13th kills. And I'm like,
Wait, all the kills, like in all the entire franchise.
It was a draft. So we were all drafting different kills.
Okay.
And but I didn't remember like half of them, and they all blurred together. I had to go back and like look at all the movies and like figure out which kill was in which movie. And like, I love the Friday the 13th movies, don't get me wrong, but like, for me, I don't remember movies that way. You know what I mean? I don't really remember like a specific scare or specific kill. I remember the story. I remember the characters. So I think that's why a lot of these movies have scary elements to them, and they drew me into the genre. But they're not necessarily like jump scare a minute.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure.
And that's why I think that's like actually like a perfect way to talk about Poltergeist. Perhaps the scariest produced Steven Spielberg movie.
Yeah.
That movie fucked a lot of people up.
How old were you when you first saw it?
It must have been like 8 or 10.
I think it's
Saw
like a
it
rite of
sleep.
passage. It's like
Yeah.
a rite of passage to
Yeah.
see that. Did you see it on VHS at a sleepover?
Oh,
I'm guessing,
for-
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, no, I'm the age for VHS. And I had a friend named Jared whose parents let him watch everything, and my parents like really controlled what I could see. So when I went over his house, I saw things like Predator, which was really scarring.
Did your parents get
And
upset?
I didn't really tell them.
Yeah. I mean, my dad, I had a friend that brought me, I think it was that movie Serenity, is like the fire
Oh
pit
yeah,
movie.
sure.
A friend of mine took me to go see that in theaters, and my dad was really mad.
Oh no.
Yeah, he was like, "That's not rated for you. Like, you're only in fifth
no,
grade."
That's such a fun movie.
I know, but I was only in fifth grade, which I guess nowadays, like
Okay.
kids in fifth grade are going to go see, like,
Yeah.
I don't know what they're watching on
They're watching
TikTok.
Oppenheimer.
They're watching like crazy twerk videos. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
But no, my dad was very protective, so I can relate to that.
Yeah, no, but I mean, obviously the guy pulling his face off, but I think just the idea that like a little kid could go missing was like super traumatic,
Yeah.
because you can relate so much, I think, to Carol Ann, and everyone can relate to the struggle of parents trying to find their missing kids. So
Yeah, even when you're not a parent.
absolutely. So yeah, that's for me is like definitely a seminal memory. And then there's Goonies.
Oh my, Goonies is such a great, when I saw it on your list, I was like, whoa, because I remember watching Goonies. Goonies really affected me when I was a kid.
Yes.
And I didn't even realize it until I was an adult, where I was like, that movie really shaped and molded me like into the person that I am today.
Yeah.
And I would never in a billion years consider that horror. And then when you said it was horror, I was like, this is totally a kid's horror movie.
Absolutely, it's a kid's horror movie. They're literally being chased by killers. There's
Like
like
murder.
there's a freakish monster.
He's my favorite
There's-
character, by the way.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, it becomes like, he starts as a monster and becomes their friend, but which is very Frankenstein.
It is very Frankenstein.
right. So, but like, no, I think it's such a great adventure. It's scary. It's thrilling. It's intense. I wish they made kids movies like this still, you know?
And it's an adventure. That's the other thing.
Yes.
There's also romance.
Yeah.
Like I love the romance between like the teenage brother and her.
Yes.
And like I love like the relationships between the two brothers and like all the friends. And I love the monster guy.
Yeah.
I forget his name right now, but
Sloth.
Sloth. Yeah, I
Yep.
love Sloth. Like
Yeah.
my dad's gonna laugh when he listens to this because he knows how much I love Sloth.
Aw, that's awesome. Chunk loves Sloth.
I am Chunk.
And then kind of akin to Goonies, which, you know, lesser seen, but I think is worth talking, is Fred Decker's The Monster Squad. Have you seen
Wait, so I haven't seen it, so tell me
Oh
about
my
it.
God, you gotta
Yeah.
see it.
I know.
It's
Okay.
basically the Goonies with the Universal monsters.
Wait, really?
Yes.
When was this movie made? Like what?
87.
Okay.
Yeah. Written by Shane Black and Fred Decker.
Wait, it's written what?
Yes. Uh-huh.
I've never even heard of this movie.
It's amazing. You gotta check it out. It has a really loyal cult following.
Is it like super comedic? Because I mean, it's Shane Black,
very,
so
it's very much in the tone of Goonies.
yeah.
It's a group of kids who discover that in their town a vortex is about to be opened that Dracula is like summoning all these monsters through, and they have to try to stop him.
That's so awesome.
It's great. You got to watch it. It's,
Okay, I'm gonna. Every single time I do one of these interviews, I have like one movie that I'm like, I gotta watch this one,
Yeah.
and so this is mine. I just thought of another one, which is Mad Monster Party.
I have not seen that.
Okay, so you have to go watch Mad Monster Party
Okay.
because it's like all the Universal monsters get together for a party, and it's like the Rankin Bass puppets.
Whoa.
So for me, like that was my gateway, one of my gateways into like those monsters.
I am definitely going to check this
Yeah.
out. Mad Monster Party. It is going on the list.
Yeah, come on the list.
It's going on the list.
Do you use Letterbox?
I do use Letterbox.
Yeah.
I think my handle is Joe Russo Rates.
Oh, I like that because you have like all these like Joe Russo tweets.
Yeah,
or-
yeah. Because I was like, oh, I'm going to rate movies on this, and then I stopped doing it. I really just log it. It really should be,
I don't rate
it
either.
should
I
be
just
Joe
love it.
Russo logs.
Joe Russo watches.
Joe Russo. Oh, that's even better. I should have done. You know,
think you can
but
change
can't.
it,
But
so.
apparently, unless you pay for it, you can't change your handle.
Oh, I don't know. I paid for it for a while and now I don't.
Yeah,
So.
so maybe I will. Maybe one day I'll. Maybe one day I'll get around
If
to it.
if we see your name change, we know you've
You know,
I've credit card.
spent the money on Letterbox. Well, speaking of a movie that's about to get logged on my Letterbox, because it's about to celebrate a milestone anniversary. Beetlejuice. Tim Burton's
Beetlejuice.
Yes,
I rewatched that recently. Oh my god.
it's so good.
Michael Keaton is his best performance.
It's insane.
I think it's his
insane.
best performance.
It's amazing. I mean, an incredible cast, super funny, super scary, super weird. Tim Burton's brain unleashed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's truly a magnificent movie. And I'm so excited to watch it again.
And I think also weird is like underline that word. It is really weird.
Yes, I think actually they're going to show it at the New Bev in the next couple of weeks. I might.
Oh, are they?
try to-
Oh my
it's
god,
still
that
available.
oh, you
Yeah.
should buy your
Yeah.
tickets now because
Yeah,
these
they
shows
sell
they've
out.
been solding out. But you know what though? If you get in the standby line, if you as long as you don't get there like 5 minutes before the show starts, they can always get you in.
Yeah,
Typically,
no, it's
unless
true.
it's like one of those crazy packed shows.
Yes. So basically from there, like once we get out of the 80s
Out of
and
Beetlejuice
and
and
into the 90s, that was when I was like reading books. And
Okay.
like seminal thing for me was the Goosebumps series.
oh, it's so funny because like I never read Goosebumps.
Yeah, I mean,
As a kid.
I'm a couple years older than you, so like
Yeah.
it probably just
Well, there were
but-
Goosebumps at my local, like at my library, and
Sure.
I just never, even though I love horror,
Yeah.
I just never. I was reading Sandman,
Oh,
so it's like,
then.
and I got my
Okay.
books banned
Yeah.
because there was nudity in them. But that's another story.
Boy, that
you
is a
know?
good story. No, Goosebumps was like it was incredible, and I became obsessed. Like I had to own them all, and some of them were like out of print already, so I was like hunting them down at like I don't know, age 11, 12. But it was incredible. I would go search Barnes and Noble and scour to see like if they had
Love
anyone
that.
I didn't have, and like pull and like read the backs at the store too. Like it was such an exciting, like fun, like easy way into the genre. And that coupled with Are You Afraid of the Dark?
See, I never read those either. I guess
Well, that was TV series.
that was a TV
That's
series. I never watched that either. But I guess I was like a Magic Treehouse kid,
Okay,
so like I like loved all the history stuff. But
Sure.
I never watched Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Are You Afraid of the Dark is super fun. It's hard to track them down anymore.
So weird. It's all
yeah.
weird, like what's lost
Yeah.
on the internet where
You can
everything
some of
is.
them on YouTube, and I think there's some here and there on different streaming services at different times. But Nickelodeon tried to reboot it.
Unsuccessfully, I'm guessing.
No, successfully. They got 2 seasons out of it, but they changed the format. It used to be an anthology. It used to be like Tales from the Crypt for kids. And my dad was too cheap to buy HBO. So Tales from the Crypt was really hard for me to access, and I only saw it at other people's houses. Um, so Are You Afraid of the Dark was like the perfect way for me. And honestly, like you can probably credit me wanting to make Nightmare Cinema like dating back to Goosebumps and Are You
Specifically
Afraid of the
that.
Dark, like anthology storytelling.
Do you have like a favorite? Do you still have your Goosebumps collection?
I think my parents have it in a box somewhere. My dad is like a horrible hoarder.
No. I reject that word entirely. Your father is a collector.
That's right.
Your
Okay.
father is. I
Yes.
reject the word hoarder.
Yes.
Your father is a collector of fine items.
There you go. And somewhere in the box is a fine items case of Goosebumps books.
The child in you will be thanking him
Probably. You're
when
probably right.
you go
When
back
I find
and
them
read
again,
them.
yeah, and I start openly weeping when
And
I.
you're like, this is my favorite cover. And like the thing that's wonderful about books for me is also like seeing like if you've written anything in them,
Yeah.
or like if you've put anything as a bookmark.
Yes.
I'm telling you, when you find that box, you're gonna be happy.
I think you're right. One of the movies that he took me to, I distinctly remember going to like an old theater with sticky floors. Ernest Scared Stupid.
Wait, what is that?
What is Ernest? Do you not know?
No, I don't know. I don't.
Okay, so Ernest was he was like the star of a commercial in the 80s, and then they made movies about him. He's like this.
That is so weird.
I know, it's the 80s and the early 90s. And in this particular movie, he fights trolls.
Okay, like actually
like monsters,
trolls, not like goblins, like troll
like
2.
goblin trolls. Yeah,
2S.
created by the Kyoto brothers who did Killer Clowns from Outer Space. They look awesome. They're scary. It's super funny. It takes place on Halloween night. And it has one of the best jump scares I've ever seen in a kids movie.
Okay, and you're not a jump scare guy, so
No.
it's like if it really got you,
Yeah.
that must be good.
Yes, it's really good. It's really good. So that's one I distinctly remember. And then there was two more kind of in the early 90s that, I mean, you can't talk about Halloween and gateway horror without talking about the Mick Garris penned Hocus Pocus.
Of course not.
Of course not.
Of course, that's like still gateway horror. That's like, I don't want to say it's girly gateway horror, but like
I don't think it is anymore.
well, I don't think it is anymore. But for like,
I know so many guys who love that movie.
but when I grew up, it was like the coolest thing. Like girl likes Hocus Pocus. It was
Yeah.
so cool because it's like we got to see like witches,
Yeah.
and we were really and like we were also, at least my friends and I were really into like Roald Dolls, the witches.
Oh yeah.
And so
yeah,
like, we
another
did that
gateway.
and
Yeah.
Hocus Pocus, and it was like I don't want to call it girly horror because obviously anyone can like it.
Sure.
But for me as a girl, it was like this is something I can get into.
Yeah.
You
No,
don't
it's
be judged for it.
yeah, no, it's super fun. It aired on TV every year pretty much of my entire childhood. So it's just like a really like warm comfort blanket. And it's been fun to watch Mick. Like I've known him for almost 10 years now. And it's been fun to watch him embrace it the more it gets ingrained in popular culture.
Yeah.
Because when I first talked to him about it, he's like, "Oh, that's a girly movie," and then like now he's
Sorry, Mick. I
Yeah.
just like confirmed your suspicion that it's a girly movie.
Well, I'm here to tell you that I don't think it is. And then the flip side of that coin also came out in 1993 was Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yes. That
Like it just
that movie like affected so much culture, like without
Yes.
people even knowing.
Yeah.
Like I'm a huge Blink 182 fan, and they reference it in their hit "I Miss You."
is that
So-
right? I didn't.
yeah, we can
Now I
live
gotta
like
go look
Jack
up.
and Sally if we want, where you can always find me. We'll have Halloween on Christmas.
Oh,
and
I
the
love
night-
that.
We'll wish this never ends. Oh my god, I'm quoting Blink 182 now on air, but yeah.
It's so good. I mean, obviously, and that like led to Disney just selling merch.
Yeah.
Nightmare Before Christmas actually was the first movie I saw in the theater with my wife.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so special.
Yeah.
I hope you guys watch
Yeah.
that every like
We
October.
do, and that's kind of like my transition from Halloween into the holidays movie.
That's so
Kind of try to time it like last.
I had a chance to talk with Chris Sarandon, who doesn't do the singing, obviously, in
Sure.
Nightmare Before Christmas, but he does the voice,
Yeah,
Jack
yeah.
Skellington. And he told me that he got like a black and white VHS tape given to him of Nightmare Before Christmas to kind of look over his ADR lines.
Yeah,
And he was kind of just looking over and like he was going to start doing it. And then all of a sudden he realized that his two children, I think there's two of them, his
Yeah,
children,
yeah.
were like glued to the TV. And he was like, this is when I realized it was going to be a big hit.
Oh,
Because they were,
that's
like,
so cool.
Like hands
that's-
face to the TV.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. And then I think like things kind of pivoted. That's when like I became a teenager, and the movie that kind of really pushed me into horror and the kind of era that followed was Scream.
Yeah, okay, so it's interesting. So, like, out of all the franchises, Scream was, like, the one that
That
grabbed
was the
you?
one that got me because it was the first one I really saw.
So it was, like,
It
you
came out
saw
when I was
Scream
6th grade. I was 12 years old. What a cool freaking movie,
Yeah,
you know?
for a 12-year-old, like, at the time that it came out,
Yes.
to that it must have been cool. And also, like, the whole idea of, like, it starts, like, with her on the phone, right?
Yes.
That's okay, I wanna
Yeah.
make sure I get it
Yeah.
right. I don't want, like,
Oh,
all
yeah.
the horror nerds,
Yeah.
like, I know, like,
Yeah.
Joe's gonna, like, jump over the table because I'm not a franchise person.
Yeah.
Like, in
Yeah.
all honesty, I'm not, like, a
Sure. Well, the
franchise
first one wasn't a franchise.
I know the first one wasn't. So do you like the rest of them?
I do like the rest of them. I actually think it's like one of the more highly consistent slasher franchises.
Yeah.
But what Scream did for me was it's basically a Rosetta Stone for lots of different horror movies. 'Cause
Okay.
it's referencing all these different other horror movies. It references Cujo. It references John Carpenter movies. It
I didn't know
references
that.
other Wes Craven movies. So it kind of became like this Rosetta Stone, where it
Okay.
was like, I didn't really understand that reference.
I never even understood that it was
Yeah.
like that.
Let me go
I might
watch.
go watch it again.
Yeah, like there's a great line where they're like, "What's the movie with E.T.'s mom where she's with like the dog?" And they're like, "Cujo." Oh no, I'm sorry, it's Werewolf.
Okay.
The Howling. It was the Howling. So it was like, oh, now I'm going to go watch the Howling.
Okay,
Right.
cool.
So it references all these movies. It opened the door, and then obviously the big movie that it like really hinges on in the third act is Halloween.
Yeah.
Which I had not seen at that point. So I was like, what is this movie that they're watching? You know, they're all obsessed and worshiping Jamie Lee Curtis. Like, I have to see this movie. And so once I saw Halloween, I credit Scream for this. Halloween became my favorite horror movie.
Is it your favorite in that franchise?
In the Halloween franchise?
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
I'm a Halloween
Yeah.
3 fan.
Oh, Halloween 3 is incredible.
Like, are they still Halloween? Halloween.
The perfect earworm.
I know.
Yeah, no, I have like a really soft spot for the Halloween franchise, even though it's wildly inconsistent. But Halloween 3 is great, but the first Halloween
Was your gateway into, and also was your gateway into the entire franchise.
And then you discover Freddy from there. You discover Jason. Hellraiser. Like,
Do you have like a favorite like villain in like those franchise movies? Like, do you have like
I still think Michael Myers is the scariest because his mask is blank and you basically project whatever fear you want into it.
That's
right?
a good about it.
Yeah.
He's also giant.
Yeah.
Like huge. Like he
Yes.
could definitely overpower me with his like super strength.
Absolutely.
Like he's almost like a super villain.
Yeah. I did a slasher short film for Crypt TV, a Valentine's Day thing, and he is definitely a Michael Myers ripoff. It's he's like basically a killer Cupid, but we went with like a blank white mask, like a cherub mask.
Yeah.
But it's and it's also like a little bit of an homage to another movie called Valentine. But I also made sure he was like we basically got a bodybuilder to play him
because you need that strength.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it was really fun. I very much am looking forward to doing another slasher movie. Hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah, like knock on wood.
Knock on wood. There's no wood around here.
Knock on
my forehead. Yes. Yeah. But then obviously Kevin Williamson wrote Scream. That opened up like a wave of really cool, fun, poppy horror in the late 90s. It was I Know What You Did Last Summer. It was The Faculty. It was Halloween H2O, which I think is the best Michael Myers Halloween sequel.
Okay. Interesting. I like that differentiation.
So I with an Halloween 3 enthusiast, you have to be crystal clear.
I know.
And
I'm gonna
like
crack
so
knuckles right there.
Yeah, so like those movies came out while I was like 12, 13, 14 years old. Like they were the perfect horror movies to just kind of get you into the genre. And they were like soft enough that they were very watchable. And then kind of just to bring this full circle before we run out of time, one movie came out in 1999, which like literally chronicled my entire generation of childhood from, starting with The Adventures of Ichabod Crane. Tim Burton came out with Sleepy Hollow.
Oh yeah. It's like goes full circle.
Yeah, it literally went full circle. And so like that movie I also watch every year. There it is.
You were literally literally on time. Like you didn't even see the timer.
No, I didn't. That was completely like, but that's the narrative. It's like it's Adventures of Ichabod Crane, A Sleepy Hollow, and by that point I was in.
I love that you can track exactly like how you grew as a horror enthusiast through these movies, because
Yeah.
I think it's really helpful to realize like how to discover things like, oh, I see this reference from this movie, so I'm gonna go watch it. Or, oh, I like this writer, so I'm gonna go check out what else they did. I like this director, I like this.
Yes.
So it's really
Yeah.
excellent.
And
Do you like,
hopefully,
I have to ask
Yeah.
before like
Sure.
we move on, but do you like new horror movies?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's been some great stuff in the last couple
Okay.
years.
Do you
Yeah.
have a favorite one?
Oh my God, my favorite horror in the last couple of years. I really liked Ready or Not.
Okay.
Did you like that movie?
I haven't.
Seen it?
I have like this huge blind spot
Oh my
called
gosh.
anything after the year 2006.
Well, the podcast that you produce has a very centered focus around the late 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you should check it out. It's really fun. Samara Weaving. It's basically like a twisted game of hide and go seek. It's great.
Okay.
Give it a go.
Unfortunately, our time is up. But Joe, is there any final thought that you'd like to leave the audience with?
I mean, I hope that like my journey and like laying it out in this trajectory, maybe if there are some parents listening, and they're trying to figure out how to like introduce their kids in the horror movies, like I feel like we gave them some like really good suggestions and like ways to go and like pathways to go.
Yeah.
So hopefully like somebody gets something out of it. But I mean, like all these movies kind of went into a stew to just make me who I am, and kind of gave me a career where I'm like lucky enough to be writing this stuff and getting paid to do it, which is pretty amazing.
I think it's awesome.
So I hope to keep doing it. And hopefully I will get to make one of these movies that impacts someone else the same way these impacted me.
If you had one movie to tell someone to watch for their gateway into horror, what would it be?
It's still Scream.
It's still Scream.
It's still Scream.
Okay, so you guys, you heard it here first. Joe says go watch Scream.
It's the Rosetta Stone. It is. I showed it to my parents, who are not big horror heads, and they really liked it. So like, it's just a super digestible movie that anyone can soak up and love and appreciate.
Thank you so much, Joe, for coming on to the show. If you would like to keep up with Joe, check him out on his Instagram at Joe Russo Graham, his Twitter at Joe Russo Tweets, or his website, joerussofilm.com, or his Letterboxd.
That's right. You can find me there at Joe Russo Rates until I change it.
I'm Gala Avery, and this has been The Gala Show.